Hey everybody, it's Michael from replicairguns.com. Sorry about the voice, got a cold. Went to Vegas last week, partied hard. Didn't really get sick at all, but on the last day, when I toned things down, was coming home, getting ready to come home, got a flu. Strange, huh? Anyways, that's just the way it is. It's been a bad one, so bear with me if you hear the odd coughing or anything going on here. I'll try to edit it out. All right, so what do we have here today? We have the Umarex Steel Strike CO2 Blowback BB rifle, and this is the tabletop review. I have not field test shot this gun, so stay posted for that. I'll try and get to that pretty quick here in the next few days. Hopefully get it out to you this week. Let's go over some of the specifications. This BB rifle has internal blowback with a metal and plastic construction. It uses dual 12-gram CO2 cartridges that are housed in the buffer tube area. It shoots 4.5 millimeter steel BBs and has a dropout magazine that holds 900 rounds in its hopper, which you can then transfer to the 30-round spring-fed magazine. This gun weighs in at 3.8 pounds or 1.72 kilograms. It has a 9-inch internal non-rifled steel barrel, shoots in single action only with a selector switch for single shot and 6-round burst operation. Umarex claims the Steel Strike has a velocity of 400 feet per second. You're also going to find flip-up non-adjustable sights with a top rail for additional sighting options. That whole rail and the flip-up sights are plastic, by the way. Pretty much all of the external gun is plastic. You're only going to find metal internally. The Umarex Steel Strike is made in Taiwan. It does come in a box with a manual. I'll show you that in a second here. And it is an AR replica or styled after the AR. A couple of neat things. You're going to find a working charging handle on this gun, with additional side and bottom rails for other accessories like lasers, tack lights, foregrip, those kinds of things. And by the way, the rear stock is removable so that you can get at the CO2, and it is adjustable with a 2-position system. All right, let's quickly look at the box here. Okay, some specifications. Right, 400 FPS, 900 round hopper, semi-auto, 30 rounds, Picatinny rail steel BB. It doesn't say anything about the 6-round burst, but it does have 6-round bursts. Oh, here's where it says 6-round burst, right there. Okay, I knew it should somewhere. Okay, not too much going on the sides. On the back, you have some sort of diagram here that shows you the parts. Okay, with some more specifications. Pretty much all the same stuff. Just tells you the length there. It comes with the safety manual, of course. 2 CO2 configuration, right? Okay. Of course, it's going to come with an Allen key so you can tighten up those CO2. I don't think your grip strength is that crazy that you can do it by hand. And then you have your manual with more information, loading information for the magazine and all that, right? How to load it and actually unload it, how to put CO2 in, the selector switch, okay? How to aim, how to adjust the rear stock, charging handle, again, all right. That's pretty much it for the manual. Before I get too in-depth here, showing you around, I do want to compare it to the Steel Force. So this is the predecessor, I guess, really, to the Steel Strike. Very similar, you know, adjustable rear sight or rear stock, you know, basically has a hopper in the gun, but the hopper is at a totally different location. It's actually inside this gun, so it rattles around. And then you've got your magazine that comes out, and on this version, your magazine holds all your CO2, right? You have your dual CO2 system. That works pretty good, or it has worked in the past, but I kind of like this new buffer tube idea, and the magazine holds the rounds. It's more conventional, I guess you'd say, what we're more used to, kind of an airsoft type idea with CO2 in the gun. And then, well, some of the airsoft guns are obviously going to have CO2 or gas in the mags, but I don't mind it being the buffer tube. It makes sense. The buffer tube is kind of like designed for CO2. You could put CO2 in there easily. But you will notice cosmetically, you know, the gun is a little not quite as thick in the receiver area, but still has that AR look. Different style stocks. I kind of like the newer style stock on the Steel Strike. Kind of like the way the Steel Strike looks in general, maybe a little bit better. But they have a similar plastic finish, which is kind of almost like a glossy plastic. Not a huge fan of that. All right, let's get into the Steel Strike, getting a little tight and look at it. So you've got your receiver here, your front end part of the receiver, top receiver, I guess it would be if you were looking at a real AR, right? It would normally break down into two parts, but it's just one piece. Okay, you've got lots of places to mount hardware on this gun. You do have your pop-up sights. They are plastic, but you could leave them down and put metal pop-up sights if you wanted to, because they do lay flush on here. Or you could put, you know, some sort of optical sight, either red dot or a scope of some sort. I wouldn't put too bright of a scope, but low-powered scope maybe. You do have this sort of flash hider type idea at the front. It looks pretty good. It's all plastic. All of this is plastic, by the way. Magazine is plastic. Even the trigger's plastic. Even the charging handle's plastic. I wish there was more metal, and that's kind of one of my gripes with this gun, is a little more metal, at least outside the gun. Inside the gun, I think there's probably plenty of metal, because you're going to need it for those mechanical parts. But, you know, it's okay. The peep sights actually look good, right? So you got this peep up. It's a nice size, because you're not going to be too far away from it, so it's a small peep, which makes sense, because then you don't have too big of an optical opening there, and I think it works pretty good. Right, so you do have your charging handle. You will need to charge it before you shoot, right? Put it in either semi-auto or, you'll hear this? Okay, it's just, you have to do that. Otherwise you don't get the internal bolt coming forward doing its, it's like almost like a blowback action internally. And when you do this, put it to select 6 rounds, you're gonna get 6-round bursts. So that's pretty cool. This rear stock is adjustable to position. If you want to pull it all the way off, that's where you get to your CO2, right? So this is nice and heavy, this I guess screw in part, and you'll notice that's going to pierce the CO2 on this end and let it out. One CO2 points this way, one points that way, so they're butt to butt and internally, and that way when you pierce it, it lets all the CO2 into this chamber, which then allows it to go into the gun, okay? You know, I like that setup. I think it makes sense. There are some other guns that use similar setups, right? The forward assist is just part of this gun. It's plastic. It's just molded in. Other than that, you know, you got your magazine release on this side, right? Magazine, you just load it up like you would an airsoft gun in a way, right? And then to load the BBs, you pull this out, shake it around, all the BBs go down into this area right here. So you shake it with this topwards, that bottomwards, and then you just push this back in, and then you're gonna have BBs in there ready to go, okay? I don't have any CO2 in here, obviously, but I will have it for when I do my field test shooting video. But pretty cool gun. I mean, I like the steel. Well, we had the Steel Force, we had the Steel Storm before that, then the Steel Force. Now we've got the Steel Strike. You can watch my previous videos, the Steel Storm video, the Steel Force video. They're fun guns. I mean, they're not the highest quality guns you're ever gonna buy. They're just a fun, inexpensive, you know, full auto BB gun option in a sort of AR configuration. And I think they're a lot of fun for the money. Can you get better full auto BB guns with more metal and stuff and more realistic? Sure you can. If you're looking for something a little more, then, you know, take a look at the Crosman SBR, DPMS SBR, or the newer version that's just coming out soon from Crosman. Anyways, this is a really fun gun, and it's true full auto, so you don't have just burst, you've got true full auto option, and this gun shoots really well too. All right, let's finish up with some pros and cons. Umarex claims 400 FPS. That's pretty reasonable for a full auto or a blowback action style gun. That's pretty good. And previously when I tested the Steel Force, it said I think 430, and I was actually able to get higher FPS. So I might get more out of this gun when I do the chronograph testing of it. We'll find out. It does have the biggest hopper out of all the series with 900 rounds. And then again, it has that 30 shot per magazine fill. So you have to kind of shake it around, fill up that 30 round internal magazine, which is spring fed. And then you get 30 shots before you need to do it all over again. But you got 900 rounds in the hopper. So you can definitely get your 2 CO2 worth of BBs before you need to refill that magazine with more BBs. Now you're going to get a decent amount of shots, as I found out with the other guns. So with its dual CO2 configuration, it goes a long way, because just having more CO2 means it doesn't cool down quite as quickly, which works better for any type of full auto operation. I do like the removable and 2-position adjustable stock. It looks good, it feels good, and it does get far enough back that the optics look fine. Some guns I've found you can't get your face or your eyes far enough away from the sight, so that's something to consider. It does have flip-up sights with an optical sight top rail option. So if you're finding you're not into these flip-up sights because they're non-adjustable, then you can get an optical sight and go to town. And there's also lots of other rails on the sides, the bottom for additional accessories. Again, tack lights, lasers, foregrip, whatever you want to throw on there. Now, my previous testing of this series of guns, so the Steel Force, the Steel Storm, they shoot pretty fast. The 6-round burst has a really high rate of fire. It kind of sounds funny. Some people say it sounds a little bit like a duck when it's firing, but it does have a high rate of fire, and that's kind of cool. And that internal bolt, or whatever you call it, blowback operation, does give it a little bit of recoil feel. I don't know if the CO2 in the magazine or the buffer tube is better, I'm not sure, but to me it makes more sense to put the CO2 in the buffer tube and the BBs in the magazine instead of in the housing of the gun. That way, the gun's shaking around, BBs are always shaking around in that gun. Kind of sounds a little funny. All right, let's get into some of the cons. The pop-up sights are non-adjustable. Unfortunately, you can't adjust them, so either they're going to be on or they're going to be off, so you're going to have to make some slight adjustments on the fly if you need to. And like I mentioned earlier, the plastic finish could have been a little bit higher grade. It's sort of glossy looking. It's probably, a decent quality plastic, but it just looks to me like it's not as high quality because of that gloss finish. I think if it was a little more matte finished, it would look more like your polymer you find on a typical AR. And this is true for the whole Steel Force, Steel Storm, Steel Strike line. A little more metal would have been nice, like some metal in the trigger, the switches, maybe the sights, the charging handle too, that could have been metal. Just a little bit of external metal would have added to the weight and just made the gun feel a little beefier, more well balanced. And again, no sling mounts on this Steel Strike, just like the other previous versions. So if you want to put a sling on there, you're going to have to be kind of creative in doing so. All right, thanks for watching another replica air guns video. Don't forget to subscribe. Check us out on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Username is Replica Airguns. We do have the Umarex Steel Strike in our Canada and US online stores over at replicaAirguns.ca and replicaAirguns.us. Links will be in the description to buy them. And of course, I'll have my written article over at replicaAirguns.com with additional photos. If you're interested in other products like air guns, BB guns, airsoft guns, blank guns, pellet guns, and other accessories, again, check out our Canada and US online stores. Until next time, take care.